All right, welcome to Just Ask Coach.
I'm Dom Amoroso, a sports savant who uses their platform to educate others about the game.
And I'm Coach Keith, hoping to inspire and show people that your dreams can come true. And today we have Semeka Randall, who has won multiple high school state championships at Trinity High School in Garfield Heights, Ohio, won a college national championship at the University of Tennessee, played in the WNBA, and is currently the interim head women's basketball coach at Winthrop University. Welcome, Semeka.
Well, welcome. It's good to be here. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm blessed and beautiful. How you
Good.
holding up in the pandemic?
I'm doing all right under these circumstances. A lot of Zoom calls and trying to recruit remote is different, but getting the job done.
Right. Well, that's one of the things we want to ask you about. What is that like for a head college basketball coach right now?
What, like you mentioned before, it's definitely different, but uh, it's given us the opportunity to kind of to get to know our current players one-on-one better. Oftentimes, you don't have that opportunity just for the simple fact we're all running. They're going to and from their classes, and then we're being pulled from administration to do certain things. And probably connecting more with our colleagues versus, again, with our student athletes. So it's been a luxury just to be able to have some form of interaction with them. Can't do anything physical with them, but you get to learn them on a more personal level.
So, are some of the kids doing some of the things on their own? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody's at home right now, but like, are you guys able to at least give them a script of some things they can be doing at home? Maybe like push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, running, or something like that.
You can highly suggest all those things, and hope that they definitely follow the plan you have in place. But also understanding too that it is this kind of the summertime, and so sometimes people either go back to their trainers or
Okay.
uh,
Right.
childhood friends who might have helped them along the way. So all that's I'm open to. I just want them to be doing something. So if it's getting up in the morning, doing a mile run or anything is better than sitting in your bed the whole day.
Absolutely. And Semeka, one of the reasons, we wanted you to be our first guest is you had a really unique playing career. And it started with your days at Trinity High School in Ohio. So how did you get your start in basketball? What drew you to the game? And what made you fall in love with the game? Because I feel like a lot of kids, they get into it at an early age and they somewhat lose that touch, through middle school or high school, be it they pick up another sport or, the game just doesn't interest them. But what really sparked your passion with basketball?
Well, I think one of the key things for me, it wasn't forced on me. Today, you see a lot of parents pushing their children to be in some form of an activity and then just channeling them to just one sport specific. Where for me, I fell in love with the game at the age of 6, but I was also running around doing
Hmm.
other things, like if it was flag football or if it was double dutch. I was just doing a bunch of activities. But I know that when I was hanging out with the girls as we were putting grass in a pot, and like we're cooking greens of some sort, vegetable, I would always look back in the backyard and see the guys playing, and like I was drawn towards that. So I spent half my time hanging out with the girls doing the girl things, and then when the guys allowed me to come in the back to hoot with them, that's kind of how I probably learned my competitiveness and just mental toughness based off of them, because they didn't take it easy on me by all means. Like they're like, if you want to play with us, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences behind it. So for me, it started at 6, and then I went to junior high, and that's kind of where like I got that was my first platform of playing against a 5-on-5, like I would say organized.
Okay. And in this pandemic, obviously, the one thing I think we've all been watching, in one form or another, is The Last Dance, and just really what Michael Jordan did in terms of inspiring a generation. Who were some of your favorite players growing up, and some of your influences as a player?
Charles Barkley was my favorite.
Okay.
Loved his toughness. I
Yeah.
love the fact that he beat the crap out of folks and he was unapologetic about it. He spoke his mind, but you could tell, like, being an undersized forward, how driven he was to be able to use his athleticism to drive by people or shoot that fadeaway jump shot. Other person was Clyde Drexler. In fact,
Okay.
22 was my number, and I used to think that I could glide in the air like Clyde Drexler. When I got to college, I didn't get that number because it was retired, so that's kind of how I went to 21. But those were my favorites. Then and if you switch it to from the female side of it, grew up watching Teresa Edwards and Cheryl Miller. Like, those people were like the start of me saying, "Oh, women can play basketball." So it started more with the men because the men were on TV the most, and there was no WNBA or ABL for me to look at, but I knew the history behind the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, Semeka, like, with today's time and social media, you have so many kids making decisions of what school they want to go to. And even at the high school level, you know, people are doing, you know, high school signings and things like that. When did you decide you were going to go to Trinity, and what led you to Trinity?
What led me to Trinity, really, my junior high coach pretty much kind of started and pushed that for me. I technically was probably supposed to go to Rhodes High School, which I was in public school.
Okay.
And my high school coach was like, you know, I have no problem you going there, but I want to see you go far with your career because I believe you have that opportunity. And so at that time, Trinity was, you know, the place where, you know, you needed to go for high school girls basketball. When you look at all my teammates like Chrissy Falcone, who went to Penn State, Tennessee Hellman, who ended up going to Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, Tennessee was recruiting her. And so that's kind of how Pat Summitt saw me in the 8th grade.
Okay.
So I kind of hung around that team and built a great rapport around them. And I begged my mom to go to Trinity, and you know, financially we figured it out, and the sacrifice was made, and that's kind of how I ended up at Trinity. From my high school coach seeing that vision, and communicating to my mother, and then me meeting at that time Coach Pat Dialis and his daughter Michelle Dialis.
Yeah. Well, it was also at a time that where you really did not see freshmen starting in high school. I mean, you was one of the first to start that trend, not only for women, but for us guys. We followed your career. We was in awe of this young girl from Cleveland going to Tennessee, and it inspired all kids, all ages, boys and girls, that they can do it. And I just want you to understand the impact that you had on not only girls basketball, but on boys basketball. And speaking of Tennessee, you said that Pat Summitt saw you in 8th grade. When did you know that you were going to go to the University of Tennessee?
I mean, I didn't know until really, honestly, my senior year, but the rapport and the relationship that I built with Pat was unbelievable. I mean, I was one of those kids that loved talking on the telephone. So at that time, how we were recruited, you had to collect call all the time. So I probably called Pat 2-3 times a day, collect call from Semeka Randall. She was like, "Randall, what do you want?" So just building that rapport with her, that's kind of how I was like, oh, man. And that was my first time actually playing for a female, so it was different. But I knew that's where I wanted to go. Like, my choices came down to really, honestly, Tennessee and UConn when it was all said and done. And what I told my coach was like, I want to win a national championship, so these are my best options right here.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, you know, you talk about Pat Summitt. I think, you know, as coaches, we all see a lot of, you know, there's a lot of reading, you know, you can do on Pat Summitt. There's a lot of, obviously now with the Twitterverse, billboard material of Pat Summitt quotes, but there, you know, there's no substitute for actually being able to experience what it was like for playing Pat Summitt. So could you tell us, what was it like playing for Pat Summitt? And, you know, somebody that's not just a Hall of Fame coach in basketball, but, you know, maybe in sports in general.
Wow. I don't know if I got all the words that can put in it. One, she is tough, but she's genuine. You get to know the person, but she's a fierce competitor, and that's what she loved about her. every day, she challenged myself and the rest of my teammates to just bring everything you got when you step across that line, and that if you were going through anything, leave that out and just come and give everything you have. So she's a mother. I mean, you just saw so many layers of this woman to where she was our Shira, and like you admire that she was able to balance all these things because she was really good at multitasking. I mean, even driving in the car with her, you watch her putting on her mascara and driving with her leg, and you're like, man, I hope got my seatbelt on. I hope I'll be all right. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll be good. So just, I mean, there's a lot to say about what the person she was. There's, again, layers.
And what's one thing that you took from Pat into coaching that you try to pass on to your players?
You know, part of her definite dozen. There were 12 of them, so you know, in this era, it's probably hard to remember them all. But back then, we like knew it. But change is a must as you're going through life. You have to constantly keep reinventing yourself, and if you want to, you know, grow and just in life in general, you got to be allowed to allow yourself to learn and grow and learn from your experience and from other people's experience. Handling success as you handle failure. That's like always stuck with me because life is like a roller coaster, and so you're going to experience so many things. And what Coach taught us was just to be consistent in everything that happens in your life. I mean, learn how to make her fried corn. I mean, you want to have some lights to the story. Yeah, she's just an amazing person.
Wow. So she was infamous for her fried corn, huh?
Man, yeah. Like, I tell you what she got me on is, you know, when we get our 48-hour visit, and she said, Randall, what do you want me to make? And so Semeka was my host. So Semeka, I would call her too. And she already tell me what I should order for the menu. And then I realized I was getting everything that Meek wanted versus getting what I wanted. But, you know, we had a collaborative, but Pat made all that happen. So I watched her literally run a practice, put me in a vehicle, and then we shoot to her house, and then she just puts the apron on and starts cooking. And I'm like, man, who does this?
Right. That's nice. That's nice. Well, playing at Tennessee, like you said, coming in with the 3 Meeks, what was that like? Because Tennessee women's basketball was one of the rare places that where they were bigger than the football program. They were bigger than the men's program. What was that like when you stepped on campus and they started giving y'all the nickname, the 3 Meeks?
Oh, man, fun. We didn't take it lightly. Mm-hmm. And I'll say this, I think we enjoyed practice more than we enjoyed the games because practice went longer so we can compete and we can have bragging rights at the end of the day. Mm. So we knew that when we put that uniform on, like it was just time to just try to destroy your opponent. And really, honestly, my freshman year, we beat people by an average of 30 points. And so we started trying to make these deals with coach, like, hey, if we beat somebody, can we get a new pair of shoes? So we kind of got in trouble because every like week we were walking around with something new, and the other teams are like, yo, how are they getting all this stuff? And it was because we were making bets with coach to say how we'll beat people by X amount of points. And like she bought into it, and we were just getting stuff.
Wow. National champion as a freshman. I mean, what is that ride like? When did you know? I mean, I hear you say that y'all was kind of dominating people, but like, when did that set in? Freshman, a girl from Cleveland, Ohio, just getting on campus, winning a national championship at the college level. What was that like?
I'm gonna just say this, and you know, it's funny. The coaches, when they walked off the court the first day, just to hear an Al Brown tell this story, like years later, he looked to Pat and said, hey, you don't have to coach this team. This team will coach themselves. We're going to win a national championship. Mm-hmm. We walked in on the first day on a mission, the freshman class. Mm-hmm. And I never forget, they tried to, we were playing open gym, so they tried to put all the freshmen versus Semeka and the upperclassmen. Mm-hmm. And they only beat us by 1 point, and it was luck. And we're like, let's run that back.
Right.
And they're like, no, we got to mix these teams up now. So where did it sink in? I really feel like that moment, because we were so we were different. We were just built natural competitors. People today now like are more reserved. Like I gotta let the seniors or the upperclassmen run it. Like we had no fear as freshmen. I remember telling Pat this because the year prior to me getting there, they had lost 10 games. And I told coach on the phone, said, don't worry, I'm going to pick the ball up full court when I get there so you don't ever have to worry about that. Like we were just built differently.
Wow.
So right off the bat coming in, I had one thing on my mind, and the rest of the freshmen, I'm quite sure they would speak the same way. We were determined to win a national championship.
Wow.
And, having the national success at Tennessee set you up for an opportunity in the WNBA. So the first thing I want to ask you with that is, how does the WNBA's draft process differ from the NBA's?
How's it different?
Yeah.
I would say shorter season. Again, you're still, and for the time that I went in, the WNBA had, when I first got to college, the WNBA had just started. So that was in 97, 98. And then when I got there, it was still new because I got there in 2001. So it's still trying to find itself in a sense of like the fan base. So different. You look at a guy's game, and I'll go even far to say the weakest team that doesn't draw maybe, enough fans. They still have more fans than the WNBA did. I mean, pay was different. We laugh about this. I made $38,000 in the WNBA. Shaq in 1 week was making $54,000.
Wow.
And those numbers could be off a little bit, but again, we travel commercial flights. They did charter flights. I never forget this moment. We had just played a road show where we ended up playing, say, Sacramento, and we went to LA. But then we had another game in Seattle back home, and there was a delay in the flight, and so our game was later that evening. So they only, because our flight got canceled, they found another flight, but it only had 6 seats in it. So all the starters and the head coach got to fly out on that flight, and then the rest of the team was on another flight after that flight that they could take everybody. So I remember going out with that first 5 because I started my first year in the WNBA. So we started again literally with 5 people, and we had to call timeouts. And as everybody's running out of the locker room to from the flight change, then we had a bench and at that time we had half, so it was 8 minutes or 5 minutes to go in the game, and here comes the rest of the team on the bench. Crazy experience, but some of the things when you say what's the difference between the WNBA and the NBA, those things.
And it's good to see now that the league is certainly evolving, and not just the WNBA but the women's game in general. Personally, I think Sabrina Ionesco was the best collegiate athlete this year in any sport, not just basketball. So, what is it like from your perspective to see the women's game evolving to the level of popularity that the men's game has evolved?
Man, I think it's great. I think it's the dues. Say for people like myself, we paid our dues for them to have it, and hopefully that this group right now that are doing that will repeat the cycle for the next generation to come. It sucks because with this COVID-19, as the women got these great salaries, now there's been a pause put on their ability to play. And I literally just spoke to Semeka a couple of days ago. It sucks because they didn't get a training camp, so those young kids didn't really get the opportunity to push those vets who probably deserve to be on that platform. So the game still has some more to grow. When you think about, there's only 12 teams, and I did the math. There's about 168 jobs, but there's a billion women who are playing basketball. So we still got some more work to do in this game because there's still more females that should be on that platform showcasing their talents right now.
Well, with that being said, I wanted to ask you about the evolution of women moving into the front offices of sports franchises. You've been a head coach and has been a head coach for many years now. What are some of the steps that it took for you to get there, and how hard is it for women to get these front office jobs, like athletic directors, general managers, and even head coaches?
You know, it's a timing thing. I think that's how things have been. Even if your major is not what you actually, went into working for, like it's timing and the network with people. So it's really cool to see women getting those positions. It's just now, will they allow us to hold those positions for a significant and give us time to create something? That's why I'm extremely excited for those WNBA women, former players getting in on the men's side just to see the game. I think we can grow it, and people have different ideals that could benefit from everyone. So I'm excited to see how this goes. Like, I'm really excited that Semeka's in the front office making decisions for the women team versus a male, because they would never understand some of the things that we may encounter being a female.
Right. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I love to see everybody involved, but especially, women and people that have faced inequality for such a long time. Well, I want to go back to another question about basketball.
Okay.
It's the 3-part question, though. The best players you've ever played against on any level, high school, college, and professional, and it can be a teammate, it could be a male or whatever, just the best.
Best player. I got to give you 3?
Yeah, high school, college, and professional.
Okay. That I went against. I'm going to say male Gary Payton.
Okay.
We had to go through that bragging rights, who was the glove and who wasn't.
Okay.
So he talked mad trash to me, and he was like, how can you be at ESPN with your hand out there like that, talking about you the glove number 2? So that was fun. I would say female. You know who I had a hard time guarding in college? Dominique Canty. That was when I said we beat everybody for the most part, majority by 30. We could never beat Alabama by 30. It was always 6 or 8 points in those when we played them. But Dominique Canty, I guarded her, and she dropped 25 on me every night, and I was freaking pissed off about that. And it's funny because our male assistant coach, Al Brown, would put in scouting reports. Well, hopefully Randall can defend her because she's done a terrible job thus far. And I was like, man, you just throw me up under the bus like that? So I'll say Dominique Candy. And the next one I would say would be, this is tough. Shamikwa Hosklaw.
Okay. And like you said, in practice, them battles was tough.
Man, I mean, you can go Shamikwa, Tamika, there's just so many. Yeah.
Wow, that's got to be, great honor. And as basketball people and historians, those stories will go on forever.
Absolutely.
That's something that nobody can never take from you guys. And, that's why it's an honor, having you to come on and share just a little bit of your history and your story with us. But I also want to ask you about, you were recently married. Your husband, we about family on this show. So
absolutely.
Where'd you meet him? And tell us a little bit about him.
Well, funny story. I'm coaching down at Alabama A&M at an HBCU. And my first encounter with Matt was we were both, I was getting introduced from our athletic director telling me that he is going to be our new golf coach. So I kind of blew him off like, oh, hey, how you doing? Whatever. Hey, Mr. AD, I need this, and this while you're trying to help him get accoladed here. I need these things. He can wait. So then the next time I saw him, he was in the gym messing around with the ball. And he was like, Coach, you should let me come out and practice with your team. And so this is me always thinking like, hey, I need you to show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you do that? And he did it. So we started out as friends, and no one obviously knew that we were kind of hanging out. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, I left Alabama, and he was like, I'm coming with you to Wright State. And that's kind of how our story ended. And then we ended up getting married. We didn't tell anybody. We went to the courthouse and said our dues, and he went to go watch a basketball game, and I went back to work.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Where's he from, Semeka?
He's actually from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and he's a golf pro. So
That's awesome.
that's our golfer in the family.
Okay. Okay. Well, before we get off, I'm gonna get his size and your size, and we're gonna send you a Just Ask Coach T-shirt for being on the show
Awesome.
that Dom is wearing right now. And
Okay.
I'm also got you a Browns jersey. I know you're a Browns fan. You from Cleveland. So
That's
I know
right.
you're a Browns fan. So I'm gonna send you a Browns jersey as well. But we thank you. We appreciate you, and we really enjoyed you being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, see you. Bye.
And remember, who's ever your favorite coach, I'm his favorite coach.
That's right.
Peace.
Peace.